Do we get more cowbell?
Oh, that ends up on Phil. Well, good evening and welcome to the first podcast. The first question we're going to have to answer before I say this is: are we going to say GAFE Admin or GAF Admin?
It's gaff. If you say gafe, I'm leaving.
I'm out if it's GAFE.
There we go. You have it. I say GAF Admin too. So the GAF Admin podcast, the podcast by and for GAF Admins. Tonight we have me, Lance Lennon. I am the technology director for Eagle Grove Community School District, Eagle Grove, Iowa. Nice little small town in north central Iowa. We have one stoplight now, and it's blinking red, so it's not even a stoplight; it's a four-way stop. Who's next?
I'll go. This is Phil Trimble, Pocahontas Community School District in Pocahontas, Iowa. I don't believe we have any lights yet, Lance. We're working on that. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right.
All right,
Carl?
I'll go next. Carl Hare, Tech Director for Ames Community Schools in Ames, Iowa. And we have lots of stoplights and stop signs and college kids that we get to stop for when they jump out in front of cars. So, yeah, I don't know if that makes me better or not, but I waste more gas driving across town than you guys do.
And I'm Mitch Dowhauer. I'm the Technology Director at Spencer Community Schools, Northwest Iowa, up here in the cold and snow. I guess we're kind of northwest, north central. I don't know. Somewhere in between. We have plenty of stoplights as well, but no college kids. So we miss out on all that fun.
Excellent. Well, what we're hoping this podcast is going to be about and for is other GAF admins that are out there, life experiences that we've had, things that we're finding out are coming up or around the bend for Google Apps. Hopefully on every podcast we'll have ourselves a very distinguished guest who can raise the quality level of this podcast beyond the four of us. And also Chad Frericks will join us from time to time. This week he's in Mexico, and I guess not only do you not drink the water, you don't use the Wi-Fi. So,
And that will bring the quality down in the group.
It will definitely bring the number of expletives up. So this will become a not safe for work podcast. I have no doubt about that. But that's okay. So how the show will work. Hopefully in the beginning you'll see us five people talking, and one of the things I'm hoping is that each week we'll talk about a success and or a failure that we've had with our GAF administration. Talk about some of the latest issues, latest successes. We'll bring in our guest, have them talk about what they do for GAF admins, and then we'll give them a 2-minute drill, which means every single guest we have will have the same questions every week so that we can get to know them all on the same level. But tonight you have just the four of us, so we're just going to talk about us. So I'm actually going to turn over to Mitch, because of all four of us that are here tonight, Mitch has had more experience than any of us in terms of GAF administration, because Mitch actually used to get to go all over the place and set up and help other companies and schools do this. So Mitch, why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about your experience and some of your favorite memories and some of your worst.
Sure. So I think you and Carl are doing a little more than I have lately, but with Google Apps, back when I started, 2000, forever ago, 2012, 2013, somewhere in there, maybe even before that, 2008, I don't know, whatever. But long time ago in technology years, nobody was really doing the technical side of Google Apps other than maybe our friend Hank Thiele out of Chicago area. And then a gentleman by the name of Eric Edens at Google. Eric's no longer at Google, he's actually at Amazon, but those two kind of paved the way for GAF admins back then. But Hank wasn't doing a lot with the technical side. He had kind of went away from that, was doing more on the higher level administrator side, school administration. So I reached out to Hank and I asked him if I could kind of continue his work. And it kind of exploded from there. I just started updating his content, presenting new things, moving it forward. Went through college, did a grad project for GAF admins, created a website because I really didn't want to go and look for all these bookmarks and things for all these resources that I kept using over and over to help schools. And from that, I tapped Lance to help build a community. And from there, the Google Plus community kind of exploded. And I joined the company Amplified IT at that time, and kind of wanted to put a buffer between myself and that community because I had special interests there that I didn't really feel was going to help our community out. At that point, I started to travel all over the place, did technical implementations and consulting for schools pretty much everywhere in the continent at all hours. I was on airplanes all the time. I got to meet a lot of really, really cool people, so I'm very grateful for the time that I had there, the knowledge that I gained there, a lot of friendships made. It just became too much, a lot of strain on my family during that year. Decided to come back and kind of put things full circle and become a technology director at a school. I didn't really want to be a hypocrite, so I was out there telling school districts, you should be doing this, this, and this, without actually have been, boots on the ground at a school in that role. So finding my way now in Spencer, Iowa, as a technology director. We are a GAFE district. Obviously, they're being spoiled a little bit by some of the things that I'm able to do there, but I'm definitely looking forward to this podcast, and thank Lance and Carl and Phil and Chad and everybody in our community that helped keep this going and freely. Right? We aren't making any money off of this. We don't look to. We're out there to help you guys. We're also going to take from you. So as we bring these guests in, there's certainly people out there that know much more than us collectively. Bring those folks in, build up a better base of support moving forward.
Right on.
Yeah, and I do think all too often people look at the GAFE admins, and then if you look at the community, it does say I'm the owner, but truthfully, this came out of Mitch. It was his grad school project, and it started with a Google website and then a Google group, and then he said, and it was right when he Amplified was coming after him to come work for him, and great hire on their part, I thought. And he said to me, I can't start the community, but Google Plus is coming along, and this is something we should probably move to. He asked me to take it that direction because he wanted to be unbiased, and so oftentimes I get the credit for it. It's not my community, and truthfully, in the end, and Mitch probably will agree with me also, it's never been ours. It is the community, and I look at that every day and probably get some piece out of there. It's a great group of people that are out there that are part of this, and we just hit yesterday. Was it this morning, Carl? You said 3,000?
Yep, this morning we hit 3,000, and I looked just now, we're at 3,003. Seems like we pick up 10 to 12 people a day lately.
And honestly, the cool part about the community is, you can look through the list of members in our community, and there are some absolute rock stars in there. There's some people that are just kind of sitting back there lurking, but there's folks like Andrew Stillman. There's some folks from Google's Google Apps team in there. It's just an amazing group of people that are actually sitting in there that may not contribute, but they're sitting there taking things back. Those Google folks are looking for feedback all the time. What a better place to get it. So never think that your opinions or your requests are falling on deaf ears, because that's certainly not the case. I worked directly with some of those folks in the past here, and they very much value the conversations that happen on our community.
I remember first GAFE domain I set up, Carl and I set up together. It was the Wright Hamilton County School Consortium, and it was basically 5 or 6 school districts. We wanted a platform that all the schools could work together on. So small schools in Iowa, what often happens is, we had one physics teacher. Carl had one physics teacher when he was at South Hamilton. Webster City had one physics teacher. And so we decided to get together so these people had the ability to share ideas, and they said, well, what platform is going to work best for this? And we talked about Moodle, and we talked about Blackboard at that time, and truthfully, Mitch, being at Northwest AEA, we knew him from, I can't even remember, from iTech probably, and we had talked and just said, the Google platform is probably going to be the best way to go in terms of sharing, collaborating, and the tools that will be available. And boy, we cobbled that together, didn't we, Carl?
Absolutely. It was definitely a learning experience. I had started launching South Hamilton into Google Apps just shortly previous to that, so it was a great experience. It was good to know. I think what I got from it more is how not to do stuff. I look back now on that project, and then when I set South Hammy up 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was, um, I look at it and think, holy crap, how did I even make it work? Um, I mean, I think it goes to show how great um, the GAF management platform is that it allows you to make mistakes and recover from it without huge problems. I got antsy. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm ridiculously impatient. And we would go and I would upload my users and I would wait for it to process, but I wouldn't wait long enough. And so I knew who the users were supposed to be. So I would start uploading those users into groups ahead of time and before the users were created. So the groups didn't have who they were supposed to. I think I spent more time cleaning up my mistakes those first 2 years than I did actually doing it right the first time. Um, and that's what's going to be kind of neat about this is that as I talk to other GAF admins as we go around, I've had the privilege to speak to GAF admins all over the place. I guess with my one trip to Saudi, I can say all over the world now, right? Um, and but you get to learn from each other's mistakes, not just the wins. I'm going to be completely honest and say, yeah, here's some times where I really screwed up. You learn from it. Don't make my mistake. And everybody's the same way. It's like, oh yeah, I did that too, or hey, I did this wrong when I started. Learn from me. And so it was a great learning process, and we were able to get up and running and get it to do what we needed to, at least at a basic level. I think, at least when I left South Hamilton, I'd like to think it was in a good spot. I know there's some other things surrounding that, why it didn't really go after that, but it was a great learning experience and things that I learned not to do, so that when I come to a bigger district with a few thousand users, you don't make that mistake again.
Yeah, I still use that is actually my test domain now, the HCS, and if I go out and I do trainings, I'll put people in to that domain and say, go ahead, mess with it, play with it, because then I just blow it out at the end and get rid of all the users and start back over. Nobody else gets to be super admin. Mitch is actually still a super admin on my domain because Mitch has helped me set mine up for my school district because he was truly the expert. And I'm eternally grateful. I'm turned around now and helping the guy in New Mexico, and he's like, oh, what can I ever do? I said, just in the end, if this becomes something you become very good at, help somebody else and do this for somebody else, because Mitch, what did you ask me for? A couple of beers at the next conference we were at?
That's right.
Phil, what's your experience? You're on mute right now. You might want to hop off.
Can you hear me?
There he is. Yes.
All right, I'm going down into a crater. This is the second crater that I'm going into here.
Are you on Mars?
Yeah,
might as well be.
He's like the Martian.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think it was 2010, 2011, I set up my first domain using GAF, and about 5 days later, it was deleted. Now, I went back and tried to figure out what was going on, and, back then you could actually talk to somebody on the phone at Google, and that was pretty crazy. But we got it back up and running, and it's been smooth sailing ever since. And I believe that you were probably also a super admin on my account too, Mitch. So
I kicked that.
I mean, you're kind of getting all over the place here. So
I kicked that bum out as soon as he was done. He's not going to stay in my domain longer than necessary.
Yeah, I don't blame you, Carl.
I do. Those of you, later on, they're going to be hearing this and not getting the opportunity to watch this. As Phil is talking, you can see the road ahead of him right now and road signs. And when I see those deer crossing signs, I just, for those that are not in Iowa don't understand, they're very important. There's a lot of road rats, and they're huge and they do damage to your car. So be careful, Phil. Don't get in any.
I'm no longer driving.
Christy's driving.
And
okay.
Yep. She took over, so thank you very much.
So hang on a second. Why did your domain get deleted? What happened?
Yeah, we couldn't figure that out. I have no idea why.
I would like to say user error.
Yeah. Okay, let's go with that.
Lance did
Whatever
it.
it takes.
Yeah.
No, I've had some glorious fails, but I've never deleted a domain.
Yeah, and you know it came back up. They brought it back up the next day, so about 24-hour wait. And I had done a lot of work in that 3 to 5 day period, and so that was great that they were able to get all that back up and running for me. So
And that was under the old admin council, the
that's
original.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The good one.
I don't miss it. I love the new one. And people say they like the old one, but man, the new GUI is actually, I think, pretty nice.
You have to click too many times.
A lot of clicks.
I'm lazy.
It's just so adverse
Hey.
to clicking.
Hey, at least they're updating this one.
Yeah.
This is true.
All right. So, best failure.
Well, I kind of already gave
Yes.
mine.
Yeah, I'm good at failing. So
You know, if we honestly look back at like the first like instances that we've set up, I mean, I had customers when I was working through Amplified IT that you know, became customers of ours that I helped previously through the AEA system, and going back through some of that stuff, and I would just shake my head thinking, man, what were we thinking back then? You know, things have evolved a lot more thought put into some of these things, and you know, it's just a lot of flexibility too. You know, there's so many different things that you can do to accommodate different situations at different districts, and that makes it fantastic. I've rolled out instances of the competing product from the other company. I won't say names, but you know, they're just
Like the days in a year?
it's yeah, it's very rigid. You know, it's gotten a little bit better, but it's very rigid compared to what you can do with Google Apps. And you know, kudos to Google.
I would say my most glorious fail, it was just this year. I ended up doing something, and I think oh, yeah, I totally know what I did. It was for a period of, I think, 10 to 15 minutes. I went in and meant to blacklist a website, but I clicked the wrong button or box, and it was block all sites except instead of block the following. And next thing I know, we're not getting anywhere. Now, luckily, it was the one day of that week that we were not doing our maps testing, because that would have been really bad if all of a sudden not only were the sites down, but we couldn't do our standardized testing, because that's so important. That's my favorite. And I have found anytime I make a mistake, I just tell my staff, hey, guess what? I clicked the wrong button. I'm sorry. And they're like, oh, that's all right. You fixed it.
has anyone here added users to a group and accidentally hit add all domain users?
No?
Many times.
Yeah, we had
Many times.
we had all of our students in the all staff group for a long time.
Oh, well, I hope that email about that one kid didn't get out.
They're sending out emails to all staff about health insurance and things like that, and kids are chiming in.
Nice.
What are you doing? Like, oops.
That's what third-party tools come in handy.
Well, but then I couldn't blame somebody on my staff, right? Then it would be my fault.
Now, are you the head GAF poobah, or do you have a minion that does take care of that for you, or not Mitch, Carl?
So one of the things that I absolutely love about Google, and I guess this is kind of turning into a Google love fest tonight, but what do you expect? Because of the ease of management and adding in some extra tools like GAM and things like that, I can easily manage my domain of 6,000, 7,000 users without a lot of added help. I have some folks in each building, so like a help desk or a media tech, that create the users that come in the middle of the year. But that's it. As far as adding Chromebooks, provisioning Chromebooks, pushing apps, extensions, blacklisting, whitelisting, all that stuff, yeah, I'm pretty much it. Because it's so simple, it doesn't take much.
Now, are you domain sync, or do you build straight into GAF using GAM?
Everything is straight into GAF using GAM. Scripts and spreadsheets, they're my friends.
Mitch, do you use directory sync, or are you
Yeah, we when I came to Spencer, we were actually a Novell shop, so I migrated us over to a brand new Active Directory environment, and with that, obviously, I mean, with my experience, it was a no-brainer to do GADS. So we're syncing across GADS, automated across that way. I'm not automating through our sys because honestly, we don't have that many changes. So we do all of our user management from Active Directory. Our technicians work with that daily. So as far as user creation, very rarely do I have to do much with that. The only time I ever have to go in and do anything with users is password resets. So, our younger kids, we have kindergartners using Google Chromebooks. We have first, second, third graders even, all the way K3 there. Those folks, we don't want them to have an 8-character password, so we use GAM to reset the password. No, password complexity requirements with GAM uses the APIs that allow a 1-character password if we want it. So we just use their lunch numbers, which are really short. Other than that, yeah, all user management's in Active Directory.
And Phil, what about you? You creating directly in GAF, or are you doing directory sync?
I am not using directory sync or GAM. I am doing everything in GAF right now. But as Mitch mentioned, we are trying to do something at the kindergarten level to the second grade, and that password 8-character limitation is causing some issues right now. So I may be looking at GAM to rectify that.
GAM is
That
your
would be the
friend.
only way to go.
We even set up some service accounts for kindergartners. So each classroom, have their own service account. Makes life a little easier on the teacher. Honestly, they're not using things that are going to be profile specific at that level. So it also makes it kind of nice to log in as that service account and add, pin things to the shelf and different things like that you can kind of customize per user, but sharing amongst all those kids. So at that level, they came to me and they're like, hey, how can we make this easy? And I'm like, well, we can either do kiosk mode and just have you, not even have to worry about a login, or we can do some of these really cool things, profile specific with, just using a generic account. So I even let them do some of that stuff at that level. I mean, we haven't had any issues.
No. And I think with the group of us here, we're more of, I think, collectively believing in opening things up until they become a problem. In other words, teach the kids the tools and how to use the tools rather than blocking more things than not, just to keep things easier for us. Am I mistaken in anybody's thoughts on that one?
No,
Absolutely agree.
no, I agree 100%. I'm glad that there are finally some more people that are nut jobs like me. Too many times I went and presented at conferences and people are like, you do that? Really? You let YouTube? Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
You still get that today. I mean, a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm not saying we're the majority, that's for sure, but it's nice to be among comrades here.
No, and truthfully, I think we look at this different than some people. I mean, you have IT people in the school world who came from the IT world, and you have IT people in the school world who came from the school world. And Phil, you technically were trained in the IT world, but you have only worked in the schools, and that's kind of what we learned. Was the education background was you let kids try stuff and you teach them the power of the stuff, and you teach them hopefully to use it respectfully, and then you deal with the ones who don't. There's all kinds of things. Like for me, the objectionable content filter is what I call it, the naughty words list, whatever you want. I had the neatest thing happen with that is we give our kids email, and one kid wrote something to another kid this last week, and I wrote back to him and said, I don't know if this is bullying or if you guys are joking or if you're teasing him or whatever. I said, but I'm sending this to the principal and to the counselor also, so they're aware of this, but know that I catch these kinds of things. Later that afternoon, I got an email from the kid that was sent the nasty email. His mother said, thank you for doing this. Very glad that you're on top of this technology. And it was like, the kid who got in trouble, their mother said thank you. And it was one of those things where it's like I did something right, but we left it open, and it was a teachable moment rather than not giving them that tool and then them not able to learn from that. And I'll get off the soapbox.
That's a good soapbox to be on.
But I think so. Definitely, we're probably going to preach from a different side on that. And there's a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast. I don't know. Actually, I never know if a lot of people are going to listen to this. There may be 2 people that listen to this podcast who think nothing like us. But from the IT world, it makes sense what they think, in terms of locking things down and working from that point of view, because that's their training, that's their world, and they have to keep it safe.
And that's what we're trained. I mean, all the way through college, that was Microsoft's philosophy: lock everything down and then slowly give access.
And I came from a school district, very much, a larger school district, like Carl. And when I say large in relation to Iowa. But
Iowa large.
Right.
Iowa big.
Which isn't big at all, but in relation to Iowa, and we were very much on the side of the fence of block everything, lock it all down. I was also trained in the Microsoft IT world, and from that experience, I learned this is, the entire time. One of my actual jobs was to monitor emails of staff and students. So I'd have to go in, secretly check their emails daily, depending on what kind of things were coming down the pipe. I'd have to log into machines, watch student activity without them knowing that I was watching it, and it all felt so wrong. It was, we're wasting so many resources on blocking these things, and we're not sending these kids out of our school with anything other than teaching them how to circumvent these things, which sometimes can be good, right? But it's a good skill in some cases. But realistically, socially, those soft skills and things, we're not teaching them anything worthwhile. We're not helping at all. So I learned very quickly that that train of thought was not right, and I'm glad that I jumped the fence and I'm on the other side and haven't looked back since.
Yeah, having to go through all that, it's just, you feel dirty at the end of the day. Like, you gotta take a shower when you get home. I hate doing that. And, it's something that I dread if I have to go that route.
Yeah, I don't like playing detective. I come home and I'll tell my wife, not a good day I had to go through, and it's like you're looking for that. You're looking for them or trying to find them out to be naughty, and yeah, not my favorite. I'd rather find out some kid wrote code for something really cool and I got to see him do it. Some of the funnest days I have are the days I get to go to our kids that work with Blender and get to see the stuff that they're creating, or the 3D printers. That's fun when they're actually creating, and you're like, oh.
Right, and the cool part about it is, it's like, what can I do to help you, advance that skill, or what can I do to help the school district as a whole, bring other kids into that kind of thing, create that atmosphere that encourages that creativity, or encourages a new program to start up, or that's what we're really there for. We're not there to be the cop. We're not there to be the policeman and make sure that they can't get on Facebook. Who cares? They're going to be on Facebook on their phone anyway. So why am I going to spend all day trying to stop them?
Because the school board says you should.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
That is the social media that I block, and that is by board policy, and it's the one and only that and they're working it. They talked to me about it and said, do we want to change it? And I'm like, do you want to change it? I would.
To be honest, we block it for students right now, but we're like this close to just opening it up because everybody knows they're getting to it anyways, and we're doing them no justice by blocking it.
Well, and the big thing is, and Jeremy Pearson, who works in Fort Dodge, Iowa, a good friend of ours for this group also, and he's always said he doesn't like to block stuff, but he has to on his, and it's a bandwidth issue. It's more about having the stuff available for the kids that are doing actual work than the kids that are dinking around. And he said to me time and time again, I don't want to do it because it's a resource hog, when they're on it, but it also takes time for me to work on this. It takes time for my daily work to try and find kids that are doing this and correct it. And Phil, you used to work for Jeremy. I mean, you understand he has to do that stuff, but he doesn't necessarily want to.
I don't know. On the Facebook thing, I find we tend to be kind of hypocritical about it. So we tell people not to use Facebook at school, yet we have teachers with classroom Facebook pages. Our school district has Facebook pages. Our athletic all of our sports have Facebook pages. Yet by gosh, you better not be on a Facebook page
Yep.
at school.
That's exactly where we're at too right now with it. It's like we're trying to promote all this, community involvement and all this stuff through these social media outlets, and we're blocking it. So that's kind of been the wake up call for the board and for our admin team table. It's like, well, if we're going to continue to do this, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
All righty.
And as far as bandwidth goes, I mean, honestly, if you think about solutions for bandwidth, I mean, there's packet shapers and bandwidth shapers out there that can curb that kind of stuff. So there's things that we as technology directors can do to make those things work.
Yeah. Well, if you've got the money for a packet shaper.
In the grand scheme of things, Lance, they don't cost that much.
I just don't want another piece of equipment. I've been emptying out my server room. I'm not trying to fill it up. It's like so nice to. Oh.
Just buy a bigger pipe from Al Gore.
Or you could do that. Call up your AEA.
There you go. It's an infinite amount.
Yes. Some of them get it free.
Not all of it, just the aggregation part.
Oh. All right. All right. So hey, before we're a little over halfway through here for the first hour of the wonderful GAFE Admin podcast. One of the things I did want to talk about with just us present was, what is your favorite tool? I'm going to guess I know Carl's, and I'm talking third-party tool. It can be one you pay for, one you don't. But what tool do you find incredibly useful for you, be it in doing your daily job or what it does for your students?
I go first. For me, it's GAM. Being able to manage my users, being able to get things where they need to be able to write scripts, to be able to put them in as cron jobs to run at night, things like that. I mean, it makes the whole process a no-brainer. I tend to, seems like I always answer everything with, oh, GAM will do that, GAM will do that. It was like when we first started to learn how to manage OS 10 servers, it was always like, oh, just do it in terminal, just do it in terminal, just do it in terminal. Well, this is the same thing. I mean, being able to do things with a tool that you can't normally do through a GUI really opens things up. I mean, the biggest thing for us is I can create easy-to-remember passwords for my kindergartners that aren't 8 characters long. Most recently, the ability to delete a user and recreate it immediately was another big one. And now you look at, as GAM comes along and continues to be developed and continues to advance, you're able to, oh, I need to reset all the passwords for an entire OU. You could do that in one line of code now. And so it's a free tool. It's got a great community around it. I just helped another GAFE admin here in Iowa get GAM up and running, and I will.
And to be honest, this was not the. When you say another tech director, you're using that term very loosely. The person you helped, great guy, good friend, but technology-wise, that's not the main focus of his actual job. He's kind of
he's
been
an
put in the
athletic
position.
director. I
wasn't going to give away too much. You kind of now narrowed down who this actually is.
I'll give you his name. But we were able to. We got it up and going over a Hangout in the matter of about 35-40 minutes. And he was starting to run commands, and because all he wanted to do was to be able to reset all the passwords for a specific OU, and to do that in the GUI, it takes forever. And I've said it earlier tonight, and I say it whenever I talk to people. I am an inherently lazy person. If I could find a way to do something in a fraction of clicks and a fraction of time, I'm going to do it. You call it efficiency, I just call it being lazy. I don't want to work that hard. And so yeah, I'll step off my GAM soapbox, but I can pretty much guarantee I'll say something about it during every single podcast that we do.
Yeah, do me a favor. Give me the 30-second Super Bowl GAM commercial. What is GAM? Because you're going to have people that might listen to this. Hopefully, again, I'm saying we're going to have people. The one person that listened to this may not know what GAM is. So define what, or let us know what is GAM.
Yeah. All right. So GAM is basically a Python script that sits on your computer that you call through specific lines of code in terminal or PowerShell, depending on your OS, and it allows you to interact with Google's APIs directly without a GUI in the way. It also then strips away a lot of the issues that you can't do with large numbers of users or violating security protocol with long passwords and things of that nature. So at its most basic, it is a great script that allows you to interact with the APIs that on Google servers for free.
Excellent. So Google Apps Manager, if you Google Apps Manager, you'll find it. Pretty simple to install. Even I did it. So
Jay Lee's my hero.
It's pretty painless and very powerful. Very powerful. Carl and I used to do a SmackDown, what was Sherpa Tools, which became, what was it after that? Better Cloud's the new one. What was it before Better Cloud, Carl?
Flash Panel.
Thank you. Flash Panel to Better Cloud. So we did a GAM versus Flash Panel SmackDown, and that was always a fun one. We'd do it at conferences. Phil, what's your favorite third-party tool, be it free or for pay?
You know, I'd have to say Teacher Dashboard by Hapara. We had a really hard time getting staff members to latch on to Google Apps, and some of it might have been, you know, it was really new and the PD, you know, was just rushed. But it ended up really useful tool organizing their drive. And I heard a lot of comments from a lot of staff members saying, hey, I'm getting hundreds of emails from my students, you know, emailing me. They're sharing all these documents, and, you know, how can I organize my drive? And I really think Teacher Dashboard helped enormously with that, and it's been running pretty smooth ever since. I think a lot of staff members have really come on board with that ease of use. And if you're not familiar with it, Teacher Dashboard is kind of like Classrooms in the sense that it creates a classroom for you, and you're able to then go in and it creates calendars and also mailing groups to go along with that. And what we're looking at now doing is working with another third-party tool called Clever, to possibly move the student information system and integrate that into Hapara, because right now we're just doing it all manually. So that's been a really great tool.
You are still doing it via spreadsheet?
Yes, we currently still are doing it that way.
There are quite a few, actually. There's a bunch that still do spreadsheets.
You're
not alone.
I love what Hapara could do, and it was just for me. It was, I'm a one-person shop, and that was the downside. Was anytime a student changed a class, anytime that stuff happened, I had to go in and work on that spreadsheet, and it was just, yeah.
Well, I know.
No.
Yep, and I know Clever. A few districts in Iowa are using it, and I know I'm meeting with you, I think next week, Lance, up in Algona, and Jackie's running it. So that was definitely something I was going to talk to her about. So maybe we could put something together at one of the podcasts and see how easy it is to set up and run it.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great future topic. Mitch, what's your favorite third-party? And by the way, let's go back to that. Hapara, free, not free?
Not free. Hapara is not free. There's a couple of different. You can get it with. I think they call it Interact, or now they're changing the name of it to Highlights, and it's kind of that monitoring tool. And there are some other options with that, or you can get it with just the Classroom.
That was my favorite magazine as a kid, Highlights. Mitch, favorite third-party tool?
Not to overdo and beat the dead horse on GAM, but I'm right with Carl. GAM's an unbelievable tool. Jay Lee has done an unbelievable job with that tool over the years, and props to his employer for keeping it free. It's fantastic. Use it for all kinds of things. One single command to sync all users in OU into a group. Easily script that out and continue to run that, daily or whatever you want through a cron job or a scheduled task on a Windows server. But I've done some insane, crazy stuff as a consultant with that tool and doing scheduled tasks. It's nuts, some of the stuff that you can do if you actually start to think about how queries work and things like that in those commands. But not to continue that talk, Carl did a really good job on that tool. Another tool that I really like is also not a free tool, CloudLock. CloudLock is a great partner of Amplified IT, so I got exposed to it there. We've actually purchased it now at Spencer Schools. The thing that CloudLock does really well is CloudLock scans everything in your Google Drive environment on a live scan. So if a new doc is created and you're scanning for a set of, say, bad words, it finds that on the fly. The reason I really like it, however, is not necessarily to look for those bad words, but to find incidences of self-harm, where I've actually now seen 3 instances of that since I've been into my current school district come across that we've been able to intervene. There's some things in there where you really hate to violate privacy and things like that, but in these cases, I think it's warranted to be able to be alerted when things like that are, potentially really catastrophic to a family. So CloudLock has been a great asset to us. Again, it's kind of on the end of, how much do we police, how much are we monitoring, things like that. But I'm not using it that way. I am definitely more in tune to, putting in rules to check for those self-harm kind of things. I think in this day and age, it's very valuable to have that information as soon and as quickly as you can.
Now, Mitch, on that tool, can you set that up to let's say, for example, there is self-harm messages coming through. Can you set that up to where it just goes directly to another staff member and bypasses, say, for example, you, or it would go to a counselor and to a principal?
Absolutely. So you actually have the ability to go in and set up notifications to multiple email addresses, or you can set up a Google group, put those folks in a Google group, and send that notification to that group. That's what we do with our objectionable content scan for Gmail as well as CloudLock. That way, that information is immediately available to those counselors, those folks that need to access that.
Yeah, and when you say on the fly, that's the other side of this. Do you mean it's like scanning continuously, or you have set intervals that it's scanning at?
It's scanning continuously through the new Google Drive APIs allow that.
Oh.
The previous APIs, the old APIs, would only allow a certain amount of scans per day. The new APIs that rolled out with the Google Drive for Work, whatever they ended up calling that, with the new security features and stuff, allowed those companies to be able to, and there's other companies that do this, it's not just CloudLock. Personally, I like the features of CloudLock better than the others. I've worked with them, pretty much all of them now. But yeah, they all pretty well scan now in real time.
Yeah, and 2 things. I mean, one, it is a for-pay service that you're buying, but like you just said, you've had 3 instances where you may very well have prevented something catastrophic. Do you put a price on that? I mean,
and to be honest, that's 3 incidences in less than 3 months.
No.
You can't. I truthfully believe that, and that's the same thing with my objectionable content. People are like, well, then it gets sent to you all the time. I'm like, yeah, you have to look at all those emails. Yeah, but you know what? You can scan them in a fraction of a second, and when you see that information in there that you know is not safe for that kid, and you pass it along to the right person, it doesn't matter how much time it was or how much it cost. It's worth it.
And we use CloudLock too. I know that's why I like Mitch. He comes up with all the good ideas, and we just copy them. But we use CloudLock for the same reason. But there are other comparable tools out there too that do similar things. Better Cloud has just added this recently as well. Yep. In fact, I just sat through a WebEx with them today because I always want to stay on top of what's going on. We see what tools are there. Started playing around with the general audit tool a little bit too. Trying to find the best bang for your buck. And CloudLock is a great one, but it is most definitely not free.
I think, well, the biggest thing to remember is when we talk about free products and you talk about for-pay products, is the number one reason, and Carl talks about this, I've talked about this, and I know, Mitch, you've talked about this, is the reason those companies charge is the APIs they're hitting, they get charged to access. And while it may be fractions of fractions of fractions of a penny for every time they hit it, it's like in my district, if we have 1,000 users and every user has 100 documents, that's 100,000 documents. And then let's say you're running this continual scan of these documents, and even if it's only hitting them at fractions of fractions of fractions of a penny every time it's hitting 100,000 documents, that's 100,000 fractions of a fractions of a fractions of a penny. And eventually that can add up.
Actually, absolutely. Ask the guys from Office Space.
Yeah. That's a great one. But yeah, that's why they charge, because they are being charged. Now, they're not out there charging just what they're being charged. They need to make money. They're a corporation. They are making money, and that's what they're doing, but they're putting into product development and other things. So you have the for free and the for pay. GAT, you just mentioned here, the General Audit Tool, actually hits some of the for pay APIs, but they've kept it free for education, especially if you get GAT plus email. And they're making money on the corporate side, so they're charging corporations for this and then keeping it free at education. And I often call it, my term for this is the crack dealer special. But I don't know how this applies in this case, where they get you hooked on it, it's a great tool, and they get you hooked on the free, and then when you go in the business world, you want it and you pay for it. But I'm not going in the business world, and most of the IT guys aren't leaving the schools to go in the business world, so I don't know where they're getting the benefit of it, but I don't care because that's a great tool. And that was the tool I was going to talk about, for free tool. I do like the General Audit Tool. I think it does a great job of giving you information about your domain. I pay for BetterCloud. This will be the last year I buy it because GAM and GAT are going to do everything I've used General Audit or BetterCloud for. BetterCloud's a great tool. It's a beautiful GUI. I do think it is one of the prettiest GUIs I've ever used. But you pay for the pretty on that one. And then now with General Audit Tool, the reports I can get back on domain usage, the amount of documents, how many are shared, how many are public, who are they sharing to, who's hit what, the kind of reports I get back. When people say, hey, look, is your product being, are the Google apps being used? How are we using this? We're a one-to-one Chromebook school. Are we really using this? I can pull up these reports and say, look, on an average day, here's how many people are doing, and here's what we're sharing, and here's what's getting done. So I do like that a lot. To me, that's a good tool. And then I have to go. My other for pay tool, though, is we use GoGuardian, and it's the filter. It's an extension, so it's not filtering by proxy. It's filtering by extension on our Chromebook. So even when our kids go home, they're filtered, not just through my school filter. And again, the same reports I can pull up and say, look, on an average day, when we have our kids for 7 hours a day, and that means that for the other 17 hours, they're at home or somewhere else and have access to the World Wide Web. Every time I've looked, Google Docs has been number 2 in terms of sites that are hit, and it's either Netflix or YouTube that beats them. But that's 17 hours at home, and when I'm at home, I guarantee you Netflix would be Google Docs most of the time also. So great tools in my opinion. And again, I think there's so many out there and lots of possible episodes that we can go through and talk about different tools and different APIs and what they do. Mitch, you said you do a lot with the Windows side for your scheduled events.
Yeah, we're a Microsoft Windows environment, running Active Directory to Google. All of my Google Apps Manager scripts are run on scheduled tasks from a Windows box, using PowerShell scripts. I actually use PowerShell scripts to script even security groups and things like that from Active Directory nightly. So try to automate as much as I can. I don't have time to go in and do one-offs, so I'd much rather just let it automatically happen.
Excellent. And then you're doing on the Mac side, right, Carl? So you're running cron.
Yep. Yeah, we have cron jobs. So basically, I'll take and test my scripts one-off just in terminal, then throw it into a bash script, run that bash script once from terminal, and then just create a cron job to run that bash script on a regular basis once I've fully tested everything to make sure it works.
And Phil, you said you're going to start looking at GAM. Are you a Windows shop or are you a Mac shop? Are you Linux?
We are Windows.
Linux. You're Windows.
We are Windows. Very, very little Windows, but we're Windows.
Okay. And I am a Mac shop, so any of the GAM scripts that I run, I do not cron any of mine at this point. But when I do, it would be a cron situation. So, and that's just the two ways, be it Windows or Mac, that you schedule events and schedule scripts to run, so these things happen automatically. And it's the Ron Popeil method. You set it and forget it, and good things happen. So,
honestly, with GAM, it's the shortcut way. I mean, we could all go in and write it all in Python or whatever language.
Yes,
we wanted
my coding of Python is so
But luckily
quality.
Jay, decided to write all that code for us. So
Exactly.
Chad would be like, hey, let's just script that in a Google Doc.
He could write a Google script for it. Yeah, he could. That's what I was like. He says, oh, just write a script. No, Chad, I can't just write a script like you can just write a script.
I can write you a PowerShell script.
Wouldn't do a whole lot of good for Lance either.
I got a couple Windows machines.
Still running 3.1. I don't know if that'll work for you.
No, we're XP though.
Oh, okay.
And speaking of which, I guess I can ask later, but I'm asked now. Does anybody heard that they're going to automatically update to Windows 7? Or Windows 7 will automatically update to Windows 10?
Without the user working or doing anything?
I saw something about that, and I just didn't know if it was true or not.
We control our updates, so we have an update server.
Okay.
So whatever updates get pushed to that machine, ultimately I have to accept. So if that update got pushed through, it'd be my fault. But they had that
Fail miserably.
They had that annoying knowledge base article or update that came through that put the little notification down in the lower right hand corner that everybody had to block. We have Del Case in our environment, which is basically a fancy way to push scripts and things like that out to your machines. It basically inventories them and lets you push them out to machines. I wrote a script that just removes it on all our boxes, so they're not getting those notifications, things like that.
Awesome. And now, just so as long as we're talking Google, Carl, you do have Chromebooks in the wild there. You're one-to-one middle school with Chromebooks?
Yep. So I have about 1,200 Chrome devices right now in my district. And we're looking at rolling out Chrome devices to the elementary school grades 5 through 2 next year. So yeah, we got 1,200 plus right now.
And Mitch, you are kindergarten through 12, but you're one-to-one 5 to 12?
We're technically not one-to-one, but we are.
Really?
We have enough devices to be considered one-to-one, but we don't have students assigned to devices right now. They're groups assigned to classrooms. That's going to change just for accountability. We have about 1,600 devices, I think now. So we're really close. We could be there. It's just a matter of getting our instructional level where we want it to be to feel comfortable. Pushing the idea, because we're technically already there, the idea of being one-to-one to our teachers. So.
And Phil, you are one-to-one, but from what grade levels?
So we're one-to-one from grades 3 through 12 with Chromebooks and iPads at grades pre-K through 2nd.
Are they one-to-one pre-K through 2nd?
Not quite yet. We're working there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of iPads.
Yeah, it is. They're getting a lot of use right now, and that's a good thing.
Good. And we are one-to-one 512 with Chromebooks, and then 3-4 we have carts for grade level, and then pre-K through 2 we are iPads also, not one-to-one carts for the classroom. So we are one cart per grade level, but that's more than enough iPads in the wild for me. Those are not my super fun things to manage.
Oh, it's going to get better with 9.3 or.
It's supposed to. We'll see. We'll see. All right.
I won't see.
You have no iPads?
We have, I think total, we might have 25 because preschool bought some last year, but I let them manage them themselves.
Manage them.
Individual user accounts.
Yes.
That's the way to go.
Yep. I told them, yep, you can buy that with Microsoft money, but you're going to manage it as an individual user device. So.
Well, alrighty. Well, we are running right up against the end here. thus will end episode 1 of GAFE Admins.
Woohoo! Way to go.
Thank you, everyone. We'll put this into post-production. We do want to say thank you. Phil and Pocahontas students are actually developing our theme. And
More cowbell, more cowbell.
Shut your mouth.
I maybe I have grown rather partial to that one. I played it for Sam, and she was like, "I like that. That's you." And I'm like, "Kinda is."
I'll let the students know.
I like that one.
I do like it. It's got a disco beat. We'll see. We'll see which one makes it. Other than that, maybe you have any wonderful words of wisdom before we go?
Nope, I look forward to it. I think it's going to be fun.
Excellent. Yep. Hopefully we'll get a lot of
It'll be more flavorful when we get Chad in here.
Yeah, I would like to
It
go on
definitely
record
will.
that I did not swear one time during this podcast.
Nobody did.
No swear words
This
this
was
time.
PG. This was PG right here.
This was almost G.
I would say that we'd ramp into it, but that's probably not going to happen.
No.
Let's keep it
It's-
that way because
it's
my
gonna be
daughter's
full
listening
blown.
right now.
Oh no, we're not going to build up. But when Chad he's down in Mexico, so hopefully he'll get to leave and get to join us next time. So until next time, we'll bid you all adieu.
Good
Have a
night.
good one.
Good night.
I shouldn't have said adieu. I'll cut that out in post. Don't worry.
Okay.